This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, let's see. I recognize Shweta. I recognize you, I think, from a previous session. Thank you for
ये
joining.
कर दूं हाँ मैंने सेलेक्ट करके रखी थी
Hi, Vitika.
ब्लैक ये ब्लैक है तेरे पास ब्लैक कलर का जींस नहीं है
You're welcome to go on mute and say hi. You know, whether you're new or you're repeat participant. You can also put it in chat, which part of the country you're joining from. We'll give it another minute for people to join. It also takes a little bit longer to connect, I think, at this time of the day. Okay, see another few seconds. In the meantime, do you want to put where you're joining us from? Which city, town, street in India or outside of India, anywhere? You're joining from Hyderabad. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Nikhila. Welcome. Anybody else wants to share? Hi, Pallavi from Mumbai. Fantastic. Mulama from Cochin. I might be visiting Cochin in February. It's not decided yet, but I might be visiting as part of my work. Pune. Yeah, I might be visiting Pune too. Great. Wonderful, wonderful. We have more people joining. I think it's probably a good idea that we start, but keep it coming in the chat where you're joining from. You know, I'll try and call out the locations. Bangalore for sure, Rachna. It is on the cards always. So, you know, I've been to Bangalore so many times now in the last 5-6 years. Fantastic. Okay, let's get started. Good evening, everybody. Since everybody's joining from India and it's the same time zone, so I'll stick to one greeting. Thank you for joining. Many of you are coming again, so thank you for coming. And many of you are new, at least for my memory from the names I see. I hope you've had the chance to join the Aspire for Her community as well and get to know about the overall work that we do. So today we are back with Anu Seth from Pay It Forward. And I can't believe that we are, you know, in week 6 since we launched this initiative, starting from very simple things about how to do conversations, a really good session that Anu led together with our other partner from Womanista. Then we have moved forward to rules of thumb of money, what is financial security, how to build about it. Anu also did a wonderful session around psychology of money. And you know, today we are back again with an extremely interesting topic around goal-based financial planning. Until you have very specific goals, it's really difficult to achieve anything. And as always, when we start, we have some ice-breaking questions to get the, you know, mood in that zone, in that topic, by asking some ice-breaking questions and a poll. And then we will hand over to Anu to run her session. And I can tell you that it's a really interesting topic, an area that many of you may or may not know about it or have the details about. With that, I think, Steffi, we can start with our icebreaker questions, please.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you, guys. Let's get started. These questions, as ma'am said, they are just to get the session started on the right note, on the light note. So please keep it interactive. Do not hesitate. Send in your answers through the chat box. Having said that, here's my first question. How important do you think it is to have financial plans linked to your life goals? I repeat, how important do you think it is to have financial plans linked to your life goals? Very important. I will also be typing this in the chat box just in case. Okay, people say very important. Okay, guys, waiting for your answers. I think equally important. Correct. I'm happy the responses we are getting are, all in the same direction. Very important. We are all on the same page. So most of us understand, the importance that it holds. And of course, for those of who don't, this session will help put it into perspective. Any more answers, guys?
Or else we assume it's important for everybody.
Yeah. Utmost important. Absolutely. Okay, so I think, as ma'am said, all of us are on the same page. So glad to see that. Let us move on to our next question. That is, what are some ways your beliefs about money management have changed over the years? I repeat, what are some ways your beliefs about money management have changed over the years? Waiting for your answers, guys. Plan once and leave it. Okay. I think that is to plan ahead of time. Plan long term. Of course, planning is of utmost importance. I would say, I think for me, it would be savings, don't really last for that long. So investments again, compounding works. It is always changing and one must be adaptable, correct? I think that is a foremost rule of money management. Depreciation factors to consider, right? Of course, your savings won't last you for that long, so you have to keep investing. Start investing as soon as possible. Absolutely. Long-term investments. A plan for short-term and long-term. Correct. Overcoming the fear and willing to learn new things. Absolutely. Cash today is loss in the future. Right. Inflation is eating your compounding, and so plan accordingly. Right. Yes. Inflation is a big hurdle, I think, for most of us. Great. So I see a variety of responses. Before we hand this over to Anu ma'am, I think I will quickly launch our first poll.
So Anu, clearly you can see the teachings have been helping and people are responding on all the sort of learnings you've been passing on past few weeks.
Yeah, it's really heartening to know this and see the tribe growing as well. And I see the constant interest in understanding how compounding works. Very good.
Hey guys, the poll question is on your screens. I'll read it out for you all. What would you describe as your ultimate goal with respect to finances? Okay, the second and the third option are now at a tie. Nobody for the first option. Okay, excess investable surplus to secure the future of your kids and dependents is leading currently. Okay, I think in the next few seconds I'll be closing the poll, ending the poll. So please quickly put in your votes. Okay, it is tying again.
So we have a few, joining. Maybe we give a few more seconds. 15 people have already responded, but we've got a few more joining. So let's give maybe a few more seconds.
Create passive income to cover all my expenses. Okay, nobody for the first option, I see.
Well, I think the first option, I'm because I think I'm co-host, so I'm unable to answer. I was going to choose the first one, but I guess that's something we can cover in your session as part of goals and planning on having money for other experiences as well. Okay, I think we can close it now. We've got 17 responses already. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so I've entered the poll.
Okay. You can control, I think we both are able to do the same things. So you want to stop sharing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, then I think it's time for handing it over to Anu to kick off our session. And I think without it's important to highlight, and I know Pay It Forward again takes pride in it, that they do not endorse any products. They're very objective and they're very neutral. They only impart the right education. That's why literacy and the decisions to be made by each individual on their own after their own due diligence. But if there are questions and clarifications, that's what Pay It Forward helps us all with. Over to you, Anu. And please request you all to go on mute so that it's disruption less for Anu. For the speaker, it can be a little disturbing with the background noise, please. Over to you, Anu.
Thanks, Simran. Steffi, could you allow screen share or make me co-host?
Yeah, 1 second. Simran ma'am, can you please try from your end? I don't know why I don't see it here.
Sure.
While we are working on getting the hosting and I launch my presentation, I just want the participants here to think about what would be the steps that they take in case they have to drive from where they're staying to the airport in their city. And I'm saying this with an assumption that you don't know the routes. How would you go about taking on or driving your car from the place that you're staying to the airport when you don't know the routes of the city very well? You can write, yeah, Google Maps is, I guess, the natural choice. I shall try this now. Good to go. Yeah, so on the chat box, I can see most of us are thinking about a cab book or maps or Google Drive or yes. And once let's say this is very common for the cab drivers as well. They start the ride and then they ask you to enter the destination. How would it be if you don't enter a destination and get started on this drive? What do you think would be the hiccups that you may face, or maybe sometimes an entertaining experience as well? Ask for some landmarks before driving. Yeah. Driving forever till petrol dries up. That's very interesting. And I'm glad to have all of you all start thinking about how important it would be to actually put in a destination and not drive away into the country land, maybe like I'm getting Vasanta to say, maybe land on a wrong destination. Yes, that often we adopt a similar approach when we think about money conversations and money planning as well. May I request everyone to go on mute, please? Yeah, and this is a common thing that happens. And I just wanted to pick up this, a very intuitive sense that we have when we get to drive, and bring that into the context of how we think about finance and how we think about giving direction to our money. It's pretty similar when you have, let's say, even if you have, like, say, 10,000 bucks in your purse and you're out shopping, unless you decide what you're going to indulge in, you probably end up picking up things that you don't need, or pick them because you like them, because of our impulsive behavior, which is very inherent in the human psychology. And then we do not know where to find the resources to plan for our goals. So that's the topic of discussion this evening. So thanks for joining me. I'm Anu Seth from Pay It Forward. We work with women and youth with the idea of raising financial awareness. And without further delay, I'll get to what we are planning to cover today. The topics are going to be, why do we need goals? I will walk you through SMART goals and what that really means. And I'm sure all of you have many dreams on what you want to do with your money. What are the things that you want to achieve in life? Money, of course, becomes a resource to achieve them. And therefore, how do we convert our dream conversations and narratives into financial goals? And I will try and assist you with a little financial basket on what should be your shopping list. Just like when you go out grocery shopping, what should be your shopping list when it comes to shopping financial products? So without further ado, let's get started. The first point that I want to bring about is how a classic life journey is generally planned out. The early years, we are all very independent. We want to explore the world, a lot of new experiences, and we try and give our best to our career, to our families. And the 20s to 30s is primarily the decade of change, and decade of exploring your own habits, your own experiences, and there's always a shortage of money and more things to do with it. And as you move along, you realize that just like in the 20s, that was the decade of change, what we call as a midlife crisis somewhere in the 40s, when whatever life goals that you have taken up, like let's say you have a family or you have parents, all these dependencies actually come into play, and there are very significant financial responsibilities that come into play in our as we arrive in the midlife. And this is where you find most people undergoing what is called the midlife crisis, because not just your children need you the most, in case you plan to have children, but your parents need you the most, because it's a generational change which is happening. Your careers also need you the most. Most careers peak around that time, so I'm taking an assumption there for sure. And when we think about life goals in general, especially as Indians, the kind of ethos that we have, we tend to fulfill all our life goals. So the kind of responsibilities or the life plans that you make in your early 30s come to fruition when you are in around your 50s, right? And this is when we find a lot of people undergoing financial stress, because expenses are really, they're big ticket expenses, not expenses through the roof, but big ticket expenses. And the very next phase is when careers taper down and you need to depend on whatever savings you have already made. And as lifespans are expanding, we need to depend on the savings for a very longer period of time. This brings into perspective that take the example of a child who's born when you are 30 or 32. That child needs to go to college when they turn 18. So it's a very predictable path for some goals which are called life goals. For some other goals, which would be discretionary goals, like let's say you want to start a business, or like the poll said, you want to experience something like going on a world travel or starting a business or learning a new skill. These are some of the experiences all of us think about, but we never know how to fit them in. And we invariably just leave them with, I want to do this. So I want to hear from the audience some of these I want to do this kind of statements. And what would be some of the life, whether it is life goals or whether it is any discretionary goals that you may have in your mind, please do share on the chat box. What kind, let me type that out. What kind of goals would you think about? To see the world, yes. Travel. I want to move to a new field and learn psychology and explore that area. Another travel. I want a house in Goa. So getting a house is an important goal. Comfortable retirement, a corpus of 5 crores. Passive income, yes. Travel and start your own venture. And Jenny says, I'd like to have a trust fund for family member with medical issues. Yes. I want to make myself happy by becoming financially independent. Zunaisha, I hope I've pronounced it correctly. Mir Zunaisha would like to become financially independent. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And as you can see, each of these are very, very close to your heart. And they kind of represent a milestone which you would like to cover through some financials, right? Even though this is just a narrative and you say that I want to have a trust fund for the family member with medical issues, or you say, I want to travel, these are just narratives, and we need to convert these into financial goals. So to convert any goal into a more doable kind of goal, we have a framework called the SMART goals. Some of you may have used this in other spheres of life, whether it is sales or trying to learn a new skill. Because we got skill as an example, let me take that itself as an example. Or let's say you want to learn a new skill. You need to be a little more specific about it. So going with one of the examples here on the chat, just scrolling up. Yeah, so Maulama, would you like to participate in this? So I can just rattle it out. It'll be nice if some of you participate. So let's say she wants to learn a new skill. So what is the specific area in which she wants to learn a new skill? And in this case, she's saying she wants to learn psychology. So isn't that a wonderful thing that she's already got a more specific goal laid out? The next step one needs to think about is how would you measure the goal? So how would you actually go about learning it? So she can either define it in terms of the time that she's going to spend on this, or she could define this in terms of the course that she wants to take. Once she defines this, her direction becomes a little more clearer. So Maulama, have you thought about any of these?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm actually planning to take a short course on psychology. Basically, I'm interested in counseling. So I did go for 2 to 3 day course on the basic counseling. And now I'm moving towards a diploma, which is for 6 months on psychology. And then, I have learned the neuro-linguistic program. So step by step getting into it.
So yeah, so she is able to define this or articulate this goal a little more clearly, saying that, this is a 6 months program. So that's a measurable program. She can further break it down to smaller units on how much time she has to apply to, how much time she has to commit towards this goal, and how she would be able to achieve this certification that she is looking at. So when she can define that, then it becomes a little more attainable. Is it relevant? That is something, that is the next step Maulama needs to explore, whether the goal is relevant to what she's doing, how does she want to use this skill, and whether she's passionate about it, and then create a time-based plan, like she has a 6 month program that she wants to undertake. Now, whilst it is easy for all of us to define some of these goals, we generally talk only in the language that we've spoken earlier, saying that I want to travel. So let's do one more exercise like this. Let's say you want to travel, close your eyes, the winter break is just coming around the corner. So think about what would be the specific place you want to travel, basically all the 4-5 aspects of the SMART goal. And I will help you define the time by saying that you would be taking this holiday at New Year's, which is like right around the corner. So can you think of a place that you want to go to? Do you know what is the kind of money that is required? Do you think this is attainable? Do you have the resources to do this? Is this relevant? I think a holiday is always relevant. So we leave it at that. Yes. So now, whilst you may find, how many of you were able to visualize it, and what's the place that you're thinking about? Is anyone, Udaipur or Mount Abu? They're both beautiful places. It's really beautiful at Mount Abu. A European tour. Yes. So if you can break this in terms of time and think about the attainability of that tour, a foreign country. Yes. So I'm assuming that when I'm telling you to do this at the end of the year, you would have probably already undergone some of these parameters. But if I were to ask you the question that you have to undertake a travel 10 years from now, what would be the specific place do you want to go to? Would you be able to afford it? How much money would you need? Will this be an attainable goal? How will you get there? Will it be relevant then? And what is the time frame? Do you want to do it in 5 years or 10 years or 12 years? The likelihood of you knowing all those answers clearly and crisply is a little less. Whereas when we are doing this at a shorter period of time, it becomes easier. So we have this framework called SMART goals, which helps us define our goals both in the short term as well as in the long term. So I'll give you my own example. When we started Paid Forward, which is my company, and we wanted to create the brand this year, and we wanted to improve our brand recall. We sat through this exercise of SMART goals. And the first thing was we had to identify whether we are looking for more business or whether we are looking at improving our reach or whether we are looking at creating the brand identity. And then once that was specifically defined that we're looking at the brand visibility, then we had to do everything according to that. So if you had attended a webinar with me last year, I would not have my logo as my background. So small changes like that, once you have a specific thing, it helps you navigate the whole pathways better. We made it measurable by sitting down through various aspects and thinking about like, okay, how are we going to measure this? We broke it down and we said, okay, we are going to reach out to 5 different modes of communication, Aspire for her being one, and being one. We reached out to various schools and colleges. We did some programs or one-on-ones. We even collected testimonials, which is something we may not have done as rigorously had we not set this as a goal. Was it attainable? Then we had to look within our network and see whether we will be able to do it or not be able to do it. Was it relevant for us? It was. And then we gave it a timeline. So a similar exercise has to be done with our finances as well. So the questions that you ask when you get to SMART is the specific answers, your who, what, and why. The measurable answers, the how part of it. Attainable gives you an action plan and helps you break it down to smaller parts. And the relevance helps you you need to understand your own reasons, the need to use it, and you create a time bound, right? So using that, let's say you have, let's take an example where you want to think of buying a car, which is worth 4 lakhs, and you want to buy that car at the end of the year. So how would you define a SMART goal? I would like all of y'all to participate in it. I will start with one sentence and then you will add each angle to this. And it's absolutely fine if you want to unmute and participate in this exercise. So let's say you say, I want to buy a car. How can we make this more specific? Ask yourself the question, who, what, where, why.
And everyone, as Anu is encouraging, feel free to unmute yourself and share your example. That's the best way of learning as well.
Decide the model and car and the brand of the car. That will also give you, so you're getting into specifications. So will that help you bring in the financial angle? Would you know the cost of the car? Yes, so according to the budget is not a specific thing. To make it more specific, you can say, I want to buy a car worth 4 lakh. So you have explored the budget. The next, decide the size of the car, plan the down payment and EMIs I'm able to pay. Now we are making it more measurable. So if I want to buy a car worth 4 lakhs, then I need to plan for the down payment. And Nikhila, you're absolutely on the right path. When you get to make the down payment, so down payment is typically a 20%. So you will work out the 20% of the 4 lakh, and that should be equal to about 80,000. Now we know that our target is measurable. We need to accumulate money, or we need to save for this 80,000, right? Now, how do I attain this? Depending on the surplus that I have, I either break this down. Let's say I plan to buy the car a year later, then I break this down into 12 months. So I have 12 months to save up for this money. So that would be 80,000 divided by 12, and that works out to about 7,000. Let's not get into the decimal digits, but yeah. Now, that brings me to a point. I realize whether I will be able to attain this goal or not. If I have a surplus of 7,000 every month, then I can attain it in 12 months. If I have more, maybe I can reduce the time. And if I have less, then maybe I have to work at a longer time frame or change my time frame so that I get a savings which I can do. So just by sitting with any of your goal and working through the SMART goal exercise, you will realize that, a lot of clarity emerges towards the financial goal. The next question to ask is it a reachable goal for you? So in these two examples, if it is not reachable, then you tinker with tweak the timeline, etc. Obviously, for a goal like a car goal, buying a car, you don't want to keep it like 15 years later or 4-5 years later, because the cost of the car may have changed. Now, the biggest challenge is that the end of the year, when you actually go to buy the car, you may end up changing your goalpost. So be extremely careful about this phenomena, which is called the changing goalpost. And we find this extremely common when people go to buy homes. You go to the dealer to buy a 2 BHK, and then you come back signing for an EMI, which is 2 BHK plus a study, and you're already overextended, and the measurability, attainable, and the relevance of the whole goal goes for a toss. So when you're doing a financial goal, that's the last caution point you have to keep in mind, the importance of not changing your goalpost. And that's why this exercise becomes very useful. Let us see how we can apply this in a case study of a financial goal that I have worked out. So let's say this is a very common scenario, saving for a child's education. Let's say you have this 35-year-old Meera who wants to build a corpus for her 8-year-old daughter, and she can invest only about 10,000 rupees per month. Now, can you think about how many years does she have? These are some of the questions we can ask, right? How many years does she have to build this corpus? I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to get you involved and you will have to participate in this. You've given me an hour of your time, and what better way to learn than to participate and get the concept thoroughly. So yeah, do you know what age most children go for higher education? What is the age at which you did your grade 12? At 18, yes. Grade 12 is generally 17 or 18. So if the child is 8 years old, then how many years does she have to plan for this child? So we have only about 10 years. What do you think would be the financial products which are useful for this kind of a goal? Give me some examples of what you already are doing, in case you have kids or you've heard from others or you've planned for your own higher education. Jenny says insurance, FD, and stocks. Yeah, we also need to look at what should be her criteria while selecting a financial product, because 10 years is a significant amount of time. It's a long-term horizon. So she needs to think of the biggest, the phenomena that we spoke about in our last session, which was inflation, right? So that is something that's going to impact her. So she needs to keep that in mind. Yes, Sukanya Samriddhi is a very, very popular scheme for this kind of thing. But what is the kind of returns that she can expect? Do you think this needs to be worked out? It's like giving a direction to the money and entering whether you want to take the toll roads or the country roads. Yeah. So Sukanya Samriddhi gives you 8%. Now, if you were to, if you had attended my last session, you would know that inflation in education is anywhere between 10 to 12%. So if you use some of these products, there are 3 things that you can observe. Now, can we try and make this into a more smart goal? So she's got 10,000 per month is a surplus, but she's got to be more specific because she's looking at building this corpus for her 8-year-old daughter. The time is taken care of. Can you help her with how specific can we get? Do we know? The first step is, do we know how much money do I need? Right? So we'll move on to another example and we'll walk through all steps of the SMART goal and see, try and make our case better such that we can invest in a better way. So I've looked up some of the higher education colleges in India, and I've picked one of the more expensive ones. It's a private college, but I guess most parents would want to be prepared. And guys, this is only an example because I could fix time and I could define time more crisply, saying because we know that all children go for higher education at the age of 18, but you can do the same exercise for your own education or any life goal like retirement or planning a house or planning a car down payment or a house down payment or anything. The next thing, so the first thing is, what is the corpus required? That's the first question. So the steps to figure that out is find out the current cost, think about inflation, that's the next step, and then you define time. So these are some calculators you can use. So you need to figure out, and this is a whooping 78 to 80 lakhs. So people generally jump into buying the product, but they do not define the destination. So remember how you use the Google Maps, you have to do start point and end point. So keep that in mind. And the speed can be different across, depending on whether you're going to use country roads or toll roads. So the next step is, how do I get about reaching this? This is an example of, I'm just showing you that education costs in India are rising at 10% and 10 to 12%, and one needs to be really prepared for this. It's difficult to visualize the impact of inflation because it compounds over a period of time. So for all financial goals, inflation is, and especially for long-term goals, inflation becomes one of the most important criteria to look for. Going with the earlier example, now when we choose what kind of financial product to have, you need to define the criteria. People who talk about FDs or insurance get carried away with the idea of safety and it being a government-backed scheme. Take Sukanya Samriddhi, for example. It is a scheme backed by the government and it's a debt kind of instrument. So it gives you only about 7 or 8%. But if you want to use that as a mechanism to save for your child's future, you will be putting away a lot of money. And link this to the previous slide where we spoke about multiple life goals falling in the same decade. All of us have limited resources, so we need to allocate them efficiently. And for long-term goals, one needs to look at improving the rate of return so that you can free up. So from 45,000, you can free up, and you need to invest only 34,000. So the balance 11,000 that you can free up goes towards some other goal, right? So and 10 years is a long term. So when we go to pick up any financial product, we have to look at this methodology. There's something wrong with, yeah. This is the steps that one needs to look at. So first and foremost, you need to calculate the future cost of your goal. Secondly, you already go and see what are the kind of financial products you already have. Most of us do not realize that we have insurance policies, we have EPF from our companies where we are working. We would have already done some tax-based savings. Most of these statutory savings are already at a low rate of interest because they are debt kind of savings. So you need to identify where your existing assets are. And then the second step to look at is what are the surplus? How much can you really invest? Like in the previous example where she could invest only 10,000, how does she meet a goal like child's education if she can spare only 10,000? Should she begin investing? And what is the kind of risk that is involved in this? Remember, risk is directly linked to time. So as time increases, risk will reduce. So the last step is to review the investment options that you have and then figure out what is the financial product that you will buy. So don't jump into the financial product. Now, if you see, we have applied the SMART goal framework here. So we know the specific cost that we are looking at. We know whether it is, so we've done S of the SMART goal. We've made it measurable because we've been able to in terms of time and know how it has to be, how much money they need. Whether it is attainable or not will be decided by the surplus that they have. And if they don't have the surplus, they start with what they have. And as you go further, as your surpluses increase, you also do a top up to your plan. The time-based already came because it was a life goal and it was fixed that a child will go for higher education at the age of 18. So but using that framework, if you work out every goal, it will become simpler and your money will get a direction towards it. You will be encouraged to save more and more towards that direction. And that is where that is why we had the previous poll right in the beginning. Do you want to get minimalistic, whether it is towards an experience or whether you can, whether it is towards a life goal? Being minimalistic helps you generate better surplus. And therefore you can meet your goals in a better way. Now, the second step is when you get into choosing what kind of financial product that you need. Goals, when you go to the market to look for a financial product, they're sold to you with only two parameters, one being the risk that is involved and two is the return. So very often I hear people asking me, can you tell me a product which will give me a 20% return? That's not a SMART goal. Why do you need that product? What is it you're planning to, what is your aim with that money has to be defined better. So that step comes first. Now, risk can be divided based on the tenure that you take. So for short-term goals which are less than 3 years, we don't want to take risk. We want a more clearer rate of return and more assured return kind of thing. When it comes to a long-term scenario, which is goals which are more than 6 or 7 years or 5 years, you need to learn how to manage risk because inflation will be the one eating away into your money, and your money needs to be invested in a way that you beat the inflation. Remember at the time, 10 years later, if you have to sell something, then the ease of selling becomes an important criteria. So I had a client we were discussing where they invested into 3 properties, and they said, when my child goes for higher education, I'm going to sell one of these properties. And that is the time when COVID hit, and the whole the property market was stagnated. They were not able to sell at the price that they wanted. Even though they were willing to sell it at a loss, they were not able to liquidate their product. So you need to ensure what would be, put yourself in those shoes of 10 years later and think about what will be required to generate this money or liquidate the money. So keep that in mind. Security, so an assurity of your return has to be there. Assurity of the product has to be there. And I feel equity, which is a very well regulated market in India, or some of the statutory government schemes, make a good blend to plan for your long-term goals. Now, keeping all these things in mind, we created something like a financial basket, which helps you, which will help you, decide. And so we looked at various financial products and we grouped them basis whether they are apt for a short-term goal or a medium-term goal. I'd like to call out a couple of them. I think RD is an amazing product, especially when you're looking at planning for a big purchase, a new appliance to come in, or planning for your child's fees, because these days fees are also very, very, they're quite steep in India. So if you plan for that, and RD works as a fantastic tool to automate your savings. And at the end, please do not feel guilty, withdraw your savings and use them. For a medium-term goal, you can choose between hybrid funds or ELSS. And ELSS is an equity-linked savings scheme, which offers you a tax benefit as well as it has a 3-year lock-in, and they are the safest zone within the equity market. So you could look at that. Hybrid funds is a blend of debt and equity, so they are very well suited for medium-term goals. For long-term goals where inflation is your biggest risk, I think equity is something all of us need to learn about and learn how to manage the risk in equity. And then enter the market. Don't enter it without understanding. Do not buy multiple products of the same thing. So that was the motivation behind doing this, because we found a lot of people buying the same product over and over again. I thought, I need to do this exercise and help you create a broad shopping list. So if you are looking at a 10-year horizon, you don't go to a short-term goal. And don't confuse yourself with too many products. This is a classic way, and I'd leave you with this at the end. I have a QR code which will help you download this as an Excel sheet. This is a classic way by which you can create your own financial plan. So let's say you're looking at a travel destination which is due in 12 months, you look at, you kind of do your R&D and figure out what is the current cost. Look at the future value by putting in inflation. If this inflation is 0, in this case, we've taken it as 0, but it could be travel inflation right now is 10 to 12%. And then you define time. If it is anything between 0 to 3 years, it's called a short-term goal. Between 3 to 5 years, it's generally called a medium-term goal. Anything above 5 years is a long-term goal. You need to define what is the kind of expected return that you're looking at. And basis the return, you will take the risk that is associated. That will help you find a direction. That will help you find a destination more peacefully in the defined time that you have. And using these parameters and having a clear plan is when you should look at what is the product that you buy, and then get into understanding the product. Yeah, I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have. Since someone spoke about the retirement corpus, let's look at the last line as well. So if you're thinking of the retirement corpus, once you retire, we look at you should have sufficient money so that you are not dependent on your investment income. Whilst that is an ideal scenario, it doesn't really happen. But if you plan like that, the chances of you reaching the destination are very high. So in this example, I've taken a current value of an 80,000 expense. And if you were to take this 80,000 kind of household expense, 15 years later, when this person retires, they need to have a corpus of about 5 crores. And to have this kind of a corpus, they need to create their savings. Now, especially when we look at retirement corpus, you will find that when you go and look at what are the various savings that you have, you will realize that a lot of your savings are already there, especially your EPF, NPS, etc. already there. So you need to create the target after subtracting what you already have, and then choose the product basis your risk profile, your age profile, as well as your understanding. Simran, you have a question.
Thank you, Anu. Clarifying question. I am curious to know how many people in the audience know the term corpus in the context of investment. I know the English meaning, but I had to look it up myself. But since I am leading this initiative and I have taken the responsibility of looking everything from outside in perspective, not coming from finance industry, how many people know in the audience? I just need a few thumbs up or just say, I know, I don't know. Lump sum amount. Is that your answer, right? Yeah, thank you. Nope. Dipinder, nope. How did the future value 4.8? Okay, that's another question. Madhu, no. Okay, so I think I would really encourage that if we don't know the terms, I think the speakers would be very happy to explain the terms. Yeah, Pallavi, no. Manasa, no. I was pretty sure that I think this term is not a very well-known term. And when Anu and I were preparing earlier this morning, it was very early for me to ask an intelligent question. And I thought I'll look it up myself. So I've been looking it up on the side. And in my gut, I knew that people don't know this term. So again, I request you to ask these questions because not always our partners, our speakers, our future, teachers in this area, educators would know that you don't know that term. Okay. So I will request Anu, if you want to take like a few seconds and explain from an investment perspective, what does corpus mean as a term?
So corpus would be the total money that you have accumulated for a particular reason or a particular goal or a particular scheme. So it's a universal term, which means the total amount accumulated for a particular reason, so to say. So in the context of retirement corpus, or the child education corpus, it means the total amount that you've accumulated or you would need. So let me break this up into two examples. So when I say a child's education corpus, it is the money that I will require to use when my child starts that education. So when I said higher education, and I need a corpus of 70 lakhs, means I need to have 70 lakhs ready with me when my child begins their higher education, so that I can use from this money. Yeah, when I say retirement, so the difference between a goal like child's education and retirement is slightly different. When we talk about retirement corpus, it means I need to accumulate so much money. When I retire, I should have this much money available to me, and I will use this money from here onwards. So when you retire at 60, lifespans are generally 80 or 90. For the next 20 years, I will be withdrawing from this retirement corpus and not earning any interest on it. So when we do an investment, so when you invest money for a future use, you accumulate it with a target amount in mind, and that amount becomes your corpus.
And I think I would add also one thing here, especially from a retirement perspective, that when you're thinking about your corpus, It's also about how much money you want every month based on what you think would be your spending when you're retiring. And that would also then define what would that corpus be. And that's also very, very important because corpus is always looking at the value in the future. I'm trying to obviously make it super plain English, just for, myself, most importantly, and then obviously everybody else to understand it. It's the amount that we would need in that future time frame. And to get to that number and that amount, what do we have to do, keeping, as your earlier session on compounding and inflation, etc., in mind. Okay, thank you. So again, lots of people are asking a lot of questions now, which is great. And some people have understood a lot of things during the sessions. I think they're Googling it like me on the side. There's one question here. What is statutory debt or debt? I don't know, Anu, if you want to take that one now, or I'll leave it with you.
So I think we'll be able to, I'll give you a quick answer. So that's statutory debt products. So investments are generally grouped based on how the kind of asset class. Again, I think I need to remove the tricky terms here and the jargon. So let's de-jargonize this. When you go to invest, take an example of an FD. When you go to invest in an FD, they tell you you go to a bank and make an FD, a deposit for 3 years. And it says, this is the rate of return you will get. And this is the money at the end of those 3 years. This is the amount that you will get. So you know what is the rate of interest that you're earning. This money is being used by the bank to offer a loan to some other people, like we take home loans or car loans, or companies also take loans. So this is a debt in English basically means a loan. So, or giving money. So a debt instrument is like an FD, where your money is being used to loan to other people. And when I say statutory debt, when I say a debt product, it means all products which are using this kind of loan mechanism to create value are called debt products. Take your EPF, for example. So when you get your salary, there is a deduction which goes towards your EPF or a PPF, whichever one you may have. What happens to that money? That money is being used by the PPF agencies and the EPF agencies to further create loans to various business or governments, right? And they earn a rate of interest from them, and you also earn by way of interest. All these things come under the asset category called debt. And a statutory debt is a compulsory debt, which is part of our salaries, part of our savings, which are there. Statutory means compulsory. So if you are from a regular salaried segment, you would see an EPF is always coming in. If you work for more than 5 years, then a gratuity will accrue for you. So that becomes a statutory. And most of the products that we think about are statutory savings, which are being done. They are mandatory savings which happen when you are in a formal employment zone. I hope that makes it clear.
Definitely, I think better than what I knew a few seconds ago. So thank you. We're just about time.
Divya, we'll be doing the asset classes later in the year, so stay tuned with Aspire for Her, and we'll walk you into this.
Absolutely. And we've got, so thank you so much, Anu. We've got lots of, good plans for 2023, but, 2022 hasn't ended yet. We also have a session next week, and I can sort of share that December 28th, Wednesday, 6 to 7 p.m. Something super exciting is being planned. Stay tuned. If you're not following us on social channels, please do so, both on Instagram, Aspire for Her and She Knows Money channels, and on our website. And if you're not a member, I highly encourage you to join so you can get all of this information almost every Monday morning. We are sending out our emails with what's coming up for the week. So we're about to close, and before we close, as we have a tradition, we have a final poll question that we would like to now launch. Steffi, please. And do take the opportunity to reach out to Anu and Pay It Forward team. They do a lot of work with the organizations, but I suppose also with the individuals, and an absolutely unbiased advice. Would you be launching the question, Steffi? Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. EMF, yes, Equity Mutual Fund. A session on post-retirement products, a really good one. Thank you. I will take that as the feedback as we are planning for 2023. Thank you, Suma. Yes, absolutely, Anu. So I will continue to nudge on the basic questions, basic explanations, because, you know, as we all know, once we have our foundation clear on understanding, everything that scares us, you know, becomes actually not so difficult. And then we realize, oh, I wish I should have done that earlier. I wish I had known this, you know, before. So this is the safe space we are creating to ask any and every question.
Yeah.
There is no bad, there is no question. A question is a question. You don't know it, so just ask. That's all.
Absolutely. Sometimes, you know, you don't realize there'll be so many people wanting to ask the same question. So.
Oh, yeah, indeed, indeed. And so I'm glad a lot of people said no when I said that corpus. Do you know it?
Thank you.
So thank you all. And yeah, we've got good responses,
QR,
Steffi.
yeah, sure. This is a QR code in case they want to download that table and explore it further. They can use that. Would you like me to post the link on the chat box as well?
Yeah, please do so. I'm sure the participants would appreciate it very much. And the video will be available on our YouTube channel. The playlist is She Knows Money under the Aspire for Her channel, which will be available very soon. So you can go back and follow up. And if you're not following us on social channels, please do so. That's where we communicate a lot. I think somebody raised a hand, but now it seems like it was probably by mistake, Vasanta. Thank you, Achna. Thank you so much. Your feedback really is encouraging and matters a lot. If there's any questions, concerns, or topics that you're interested that we should cover, please send us an email to sheknowsmoney@aspireforher.org. I will repeat one more time, sheknowsmoney@aspireforher.org. Reach out to us. You want to talk about your own story. We would welcome some real world stories where we've had an impact. If you've changed some decisions, made some decisions about investing, you know, and your money mindsets, please do share. And we'd love to feature you as we move forward in our She Knows Money journey.
Thanks. I would also encourage everyone to go and look up the earlier videos because Neha and I planned this in a very structured manner. So a lot of your doubts will get cleared if you just go and listen to some of the older ones as well.
Yeah.
In case you don't understand inflation or compounding or how to get started, you could just go and look up some of the older videos.
Fantastic. I am so pleased to see the poll responses that nobody's saying, no, I'm still uncertain. So huge thank you to our partners, current ones, and hopefully the upcoming ones, the new ones, where we want more and more to be more and more certain, more and more confident, more and more comfortable thinking and planning about money and asking basic questions. So I think with that, we will wrap up today's session. Thank you to Steffi, who puts together these amazing icebreaker and polling questions every week, and also with contribution from our speakers. And thank you so much, Anu, for another great, insightful session. I learned so much today. Where can you see the old sessions? If you go to youtube.com, you search for Aspire for Her. We have our own channel, and under Aspire for Her, there is a playlist called She Knows Money. And you'll be able to find all the session recordings right from the launch event on that channel. Yeah, Richa, thank you for asking the question, and I'm sure many other people may want to know that. And if you can't find it, just email us or send a DM on Instagram, follow us. We will, you know, ensure that you get the link if you're unable to find. Alrighty, thank you very much. Have a great, great evening, everybody. And we will see next week on December. Let me just check the date. I should have remembered that myself. Apologies for that. But our next session is now on December 22nd, and the topic is about insurance. It's not an investment. Let's get that right. And it will be delivered by Neha Singh from Womanista. Many of you know her, so she will be back with that amazing session. And I'm super excited because I had a very different view of insurance. Okie dokie, thank you everybody, and we will see each other next week. Keep well. Did you stop recording?
Just 1 second, ma'am.